One of the best ways to level out your audio for any recording where you may have more than one person or more than one type of audio in a particular mix is something called compression. And that's important because of a concept in audio called dynamic range. So to understand compression, we first have to understand dynamic range. Think of dynamic range as the range between the lowest or the quietest sounds in your audio and the highest sounds in your audio, which means that the lower your dynamic range, the space in between the highs and the lows, the better, because that makes for a more consistent audio track. So how do you lower your dynamic range if, say, your podcast guest is really, really loud, they have a really hot input on their mic, and you might be more natural, sitting in at maybe minus 12 or minus 15 dB. You lower that dynamic range and make the experience for the listener much smoother by doing something called compression. Now, there are different ways that you can adjust compression and customize it for your specific needs, and I'll get more nerdy about that on my Sound Insights newsletter on LinkedIn, but for a basic understanding of compression, what we're basically doing is making sure that those highs don't go too high and the lows don't go too low. And that smooths out your audio. Now, I will say that it does come at a cost, and there is quality compromise when it comes to smoothing out that audio, and you can flatten somebody's audio and make them sound kind of like they're speaking through a megaphone, not the crispest, clearest, smoothest audio. In fact, that's what MP3 files are. They're more compressed compared to what we call a WAV file. A WAV file is more raw. But still, compression is important within reason. We just have to be careful not to overdo it. When we find that right delicate balance, we still keep the integrity of the original audio while still making the listener's experience convenient and smooth.